And what'll happen is those recordings will be put on a YouTube video or a video where you can go to that website and listen to them. If you look at the minutes that were sent out with this meeting invite, we just kind of do a brief summary of everything that's on the agenda. And then on the bottom of each of the minutes, it'll give you a link so you can go listen to those minutes from the meeting before. So we will no longer be writing out minutes, just due to staff time. And yeah, it just takes way too long to do those. Jack, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, thanks, Pam. No, I think you summarized it quite well. Yeah, we can certainly talk more about the minutes and bylaws. That'll be an action item on, or an item on the November agenda as well. If you have any brief questions, we can sure entertain those tonight up under new business item C. So, yeah, I just like to stress that, you know, the changes for the minutes and recording them really stem from the result of how much time it was taking staff. And, you know, we have 3 advisory boards on the Kenai Peninsula. And so, you know, that you can imagine how much time it takes staff to put together those minutes and try to summarize those. So really, the one-page minutes will just focus on the action items that the board addressed at the meeting. And then if anyone has, you know, wants to know more about the discussion or listen, they can go to the video format. And actually, you know, I think it's this last month we found that, you know, other folks that didn't make the meeting were able to watch the meeting once it was posted. And so I think that is really a benefit. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Jack. So Pam, a question for you. When does that get posted on DNR's public notice? I noticed that the minutes were on that. The recording was on that when you go to boards and commissions.
Yeah, I haven't looked to see if the recordings are going to be on there. I was told they would be, and I can double check that. But normally what happens is the meeting is recorded by tomorrow. Well, actually, by the time we all hang up, I had a problem. I think it was last month. I couldn't get a couple people to get off the meeting. I don't know what happened there. So the meeting actually ran for like 24 hours. And so, and I finally got it to shut down, and I sent those up to this guy, Mario, up in Anchorage. And once the hardest part is downloading them and then getting them sent to him. But usually within the week, we have them available, you know, online, and I'll make sure they get posted that way right away online.
Okay.
Looks like Sue has a question.
Sue, go ahead. Sue, you're muted.
Down.
Oop. Disappeared, so let's move on until she gets back here. We can discuss this further under item B. C, new business. Hi, Kristen.
Hi.
All right, so we have the minutes from our last meeting. Somebody like to make a motion to approve those? If folks feel comfortable doing that. I did read them, they look pretty good.
So this is Kirsten. I'll approve the the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, we should have somebody make the motion to approve them, then a second, and then if there's any objections.
Okay, so this is Kirsten. I make the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank
I read
you.
them and I second it.
Thanks, Louis. Are there any objections? Minutes are approved. So next is public comment on matters on the agenda, 3 minutes per person. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak to the board? Meg Cicerella, good evening.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Quite well, thank you.
Good. I wanted to bring to the attention of the board the neighborhood impacts in the Cottonwood Eastland unit on the north edge of the park that is adjacent to Elmer's Way and the DNR land adjacent to Raton. And this area has been informally called Cottonwood Eastland per a sign that is established at the base of an old social trail developed by, I think, people who originally homesteaded in this area. I wanted to let you know that the foot and vehicle traffic has exploded here as the public is accessing the park at this location. Trash and dog mess is being left along the road. Dogs are running loose. My property is adjacent to Elmer's Way. And in the last week alone, I've had 3 dogs run up here and threaten my horses and my own dogs. And there's a turnout at the intersection of Elmer's Way and Raton. And we've counted as many as 4 cars parked there. That means that nobody else coming down this road that needs to turn around can do so. And they have to do that in private driveways, which is not appropriate. And emergency vehicles have had to do that as well. We're very concerned about the situation, and this is the consequence of allowing, from what I understand after discussions with Jack Blackwell, the Friends of Kachemak Bay State Park to promote the use of this area and to brush the trail and to maintain it and sign it and even designate it as a snowshoe trail in the winter. And this concern has been raised in the past in other forums. Given the fact that the ILMA timeframe is unclear as to the acquisition of the DNR land that would establish the access to the park for the Cottonwood Eastland unit a little bit further down East End Road from us, there's a concern that the public, having discovered this, is not going to be able to make a transition to the new area, and that we'll continue to get traffic down these roads. They're platted by the borough, but they're not maintained by the borough. And so and there's no public access really for these. So the 2 or 3 families that live there are having to maintain the grading costs, the snow removal costs, the additional gravel, and this additional on Raton and Elmer's Way, and additional public access is not welcome. We don't foresee this situation getting any better as we wait for the ILMA to go through. We're asking that this area no longer be signed and no longer be brushed or maintained. It's not a formal trail, and we realize that there are folks on your board who are very excited about development of this area of Cottonwood Eastland. But we don't think that it's appropriate that it be done at the expense of the people who are living in this area. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share this concern.
Thank you, Meg. Maybe we can expound upon that under state park reports a little bit. Any further public comments?
Oh, this is Sarah. I'm here now.
Hi, Sarah, welcome. So I see Kristen San Roman. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure can.
I guess this kind of falls under old business for you guys since you talked about House Bill 52 a lot last week. I wasn't able to make it to the meeting, but I did listen to the recording. And I guess I'm also preaching to the choir because a lot of you guys are anti-House Bill 52. But I guess I just want to say I've been following this issue since the spring. And it seems like there's a theme going on of, folks having a lot of issues with the hatchery, and often their concerns around it are shot down because, this quote unquote is not a hatchery issue, it's a land disposal issue. But clearly, to me, at least, this really is a hatchery issue. This bill wouldn't exist if there wasn't a hatchery issue. And to me, it kind of seems like things are being dealt with out of order, and that first the community kind of needs to be educated on the pros and the cons of continuing to have this facility running, and from there decide, we should continue to let it close or to move forward with House Bill 52 to, quote unquote, save the hatchery. I think it's pretty reckless and bold move to remove the hatchery land from the park when there's so many people that are opposed to its operation in the first place. And especially if the hatchery closes anyway, post removal from the park, it seems pretty unclear and potentially complicated to reinstate that land as parkland. And if that happens, then all of this discussion that we've been doing for the past several months has been a big waste of time. But anyway, yeah, I guess I'm just trying to say I wish we could really talk about this for what it is, as like an anti and pro hatchery debate, not necessarily like a land disposal debate. But like I said, I think I'm preaching to the choir, and I mostly should tell it to Sarah Vance and her team. But yeah, thank you.
Kristen, thank you. I think there's people that think the same way. Anybody else from the public like to speak? So this is kind of time for the public to speak, so. All right, seeing no one else, thank you for coming forth. Let's move on to our visitor, who is Chris Little with the Conservation Fund. They are working to procure the Lucetta property over at the Saddle Trail, which is the one that you land on with the pilings. So as most of you know, that is private property, and the state park doesn't start until you get on that rock pile. So Chris, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Robert. And thanks to the board for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this exciting project. So as Robert alluded to, this is right next to the start of the Saddle Trail. It's about 100 yards, maybe less, from the start of the Saddle Trail. And the property is about 5 acres. It's located in Halibut Cove, and of course within the Kachemak Bay State Park. It's fully within the park, so it's called an inholding in that sense. This has been a priority for the state park for quite some time, and therefore it's a priority for us. A little bit about the fund. The Conservation Fund has been working in Alaska since 1994. Myself and my colleague John Ross are taking on new projects on the Kenai. We're involved in a lot of great work. John is involved in some good projects up at the Kachemak River, spearheading some efforts down here, including this property, the Saddle Trail property. I have changed the name of the property to the Saddle Trail property out of respect for the landowner, whose last name is Lizetter. And also it certainly fits what we're trying to do here and the benefits this property has to the park. And that's what we do. The Conservation Fund is set up. We're a national organization. There's only 3 of us in Alaska, and what we do is help our conservation partners become more successful in their priorities. And so on the Kenai, it's the Kachemak Land Trust, Moose Habitat Inc., and of course, the state park system as the resource managers for a lot of this great habitat. So we're working on behalf of the park and of course all the groups that support the park, the friends and the board. We appreciate that. And this is a really exciting opportunity. I'll dive a little bit more into the property. I don't have a map to share with you right now. It is about 5 acres. And as Robert mentioned, it does have the old pilings in front of it from the cannery that operated there in the 1920s. That technically is on state land because it's below the mean high tide line, though frankly, some of those pilings might actually be on the property itself. And really what it is, this property is key for several reasons. First off, as many of you know, the Saddle Trail is a major thoroughfare for hikers in Alaska. Not only probably the most popular trail in Kachemak Bay State Park, but potentially in Alaska. And the only way to get out there is by boat. And so water taxis and private individuals have to take their boats there, and to access this trail, they have to do a pretty dangerous dance to get to the actual Saddle Trail, especially at high tide when folks are confined to the staircase and the uplands on the property itself. And so really acquiring this property with the end goal of conveying the property to the state park really cures an issue right now where when the tide is high, it's a nightmare for folks to pick up people off the Saddle Trail. It's very dangerous, and it certainly impacts businesses like water taxis. And then the other issue is this is private property, and I think we're all been fortunate for quite some time that the private property owner has not enforced trespass. And certainly people walk all over this property. It's right in the middle of everything. That is not always the case. And this person has been trying to sell this property for quite some time. Frankly, we've been trying to buy it for about 10 years now. And geez, we lost it last year. It was under contract to be purchased by a private individual. For better or for worse, that contract fell through, and we're right here to pick up the sticks. And we went under contract this past summer to purchase the property, and now is the time for us to fundraise for this exciting acquisition. Like I said, this has been a priority for quite some time. We're patient, we're diligent. We've been working very carefully with the private landowner, and we finally reached a deal and to purchase the property. And now I am reaching out to folks around the Bay, private individuals, foundations, corporations, anyone that is willing to give. I am fundraising for this deal. And that essentially is my job, is to fundraise for this property. So I'm here to bring attention to the board and to folks listening on the call that I need help. And a little bit of the, backup. I'm talking to quite a few people in the community. I do live in Homer, which is helpful to be able to fundraise for this. I'm talking to the water taxis. I'm talking to the city of Homer. I'm talking to, the Kachemak Bay State Park groups that support all this stuff. I've set up a fundraising webpage, and I am beating the bushes. And so a little bit about the deal we struck with the landowner. We do have a contract to purchase the property. The contract, we're supposed to close on the property by the end of this year. So that's the end of 2021. And I did have to bring this to my board of directors, national board of directors, to get the approval for us to enter this contract. We take these things very seriously. And I do have approval from my board to use our internal money to acquire this property. And the end goal is for us to acquire it and then immediately start working to convey it to the state park. Of course, that approval from my board is conditioned. I need to demonstrate that I have secured the funding and the funding commitments to get this done at the end of the day. And so my fundraising campaign right now is $300,000. That's the cost for the conservation fund to buy the property, and to hold it for a short period of time while we convey it to the state parks. And we've budgeted that full process to be $300,000. And I've set up a fundraising website on a Just Giving website. It's another application that we use to help fundraise for projects like this. I think that website has been shared broadly. I very much appreciate all the folks that have stepped up and contributed to the project already. We've raised $30,000. We're about 10% of the way there. And this is great. And I am continuing to reach out to the community to ask for help. And so tell a friend, tell anyone you need. We got to get this done. And please reach out to me directly if you have any questions about this. My name again is Chris Little. My number is 907-929-2249. And I'd be happy to chat with any of you about this. A couple things about the fundraising strategy. I am also looking very much into public money, public grants to help leverage any private money we fundraise for this. And frankly, that's probably going to be the key to success here, is raising a good chunk of private money and then leveraging that with a significant public grant. And that's kind of my plan right now. And with that, I will take any questions.
Thanks,
Robert.
Chris. You bet. Sue, did you have a question here?
Some point be called on, but Chris, thank you so much. That's exciting. I will help you fundraise. I was one of the co-founders for the Land Trust and have done a lot of fundraising in my day. So I'm excited. I met you at Salmon Fest, and you can just include me on your team.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's the help I need.
And I'd also like to just I'd like to note that I opposed the minutes. It was not, I did not approve the minutes, but I was muted and I couldn't say anything. So I'm just going to say that now.
You oppose the minutes, Sue?
I oppose the approval of the minutes. Yeah. And the whole thing, but we can talk about that later. I just want to note it.
Okay, thank you. Glenn Seaman?
Yeah, I have a question, Chris. So is your foundation going to give X dollars, and how many dollars there is? What's the total purchase price? And is the $300,000 then over what the fund, can contribute to this? Can you explain that further?
That's great questions. So we essentially are estimating that it's going to cost us $300,000 to buy the property, hold it for a short period of time, and then convey it to the park. And we have internal money that we intend to use that. We don't want to lose this deal. And so there's a parallel effort going on to fundraise for that purchase price. We cannot leave our money in the ground per se. We have to reimburse ourselves once those fundraising goals have been met. And so, yes, we have internal capital that we can use to acquire this property. But if my fundraising goal is not hit to reimburse us, we're going to have to sell the property on the open market to recover our costs another way.
So you don't actually contribute, you're loaning the money, and we need to get money to pay for it. Is that it?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. We are a fund. We act like a bank, and we do have a revolving fund, which allows me to tap into that to deploy money on projects like this, and essentially gives us time to fundraise for it and secure other grants or private money without losing the acquisition opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Chris? So when we get down to new business, I will propose a resolution in support of trying to move this forward. We will send to various state entities. But no more questions. Chris, thanks a lot for coming and discussing this with us.
I have a
I
question.
appreciate that.
Okay, go ahead.
What's the timeline? How long are you allowed to hold it before you need to be reimbursed?
I would really like that all figured out by the end of this year. And that's really my goal for fundraising, is not necessarily to have the money in hand, but to have the commitments made. And so I can figure out exactly how long we need to own the property. I would like to own it as little as possible. That makes the deal cheaper. And I'm going to immediately, the minute I own it, I'm going to start working to convey it to the park if our fundraising goals are met. But by that point, we'd have to have a pretty high level of confidence that we're going to get it done. And I think we're going to get there. So it's really by the end of this year, I got to know, that this money is going to show up at some point in the future, in the near future.
All right. Any other questions? So Louis and Sue, if you could drop your hand, that would help me out immensely. I won't.
I would like to say one last point. I also am involved, I see on the agendas, the Nuka Island properties. The Conservation Fund is also involved in those transactions, and I'm happy to speak to those a bit. It's pretty early on in the transaction, so we probably don't have a lot to say, but it's an effort that both John Ross and myself are leading.
Thanks for that, Chris. And you're looking at raising funds the same mechanism as we're talking about for the Lucetta property for that.
Yeah, it's a little bit different because we don't have the deal under control. We don't have a contract yet. That said, we have a little more insight into the funding. I have an Alaska Sustainable Salmon grant through Department of Fish and Game that I can apply to this property if we get the deal. And so that is 65% of the funding. I'll be needing to raise another 35. So we don't have exact numbers yet, but that's a pretty good number to start working with, already having 65% of the money in hand.
Wow, great. We'll be discussing that a little more as far as maybe a resolution on that one also, so under new business.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to state park reports and Superintendent Jack Blackwell.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And Chris, thanks so much for joining us here this evening and for the update on Lucetta property. And as Chris pointed out, we have this on the agenda under new business to also talk about the Nuka Island property. We thought this would be a good opportunity to bring to the attention of the advisory board these potential acquisitions that are out there. So thanks again, Chris, for being here. The one item I wanted to mention to the board is that, and it was timely that Meg started off mentioning some of the concerns that she has at the Cottonwood Eastland property. We have scheduled a meeting for Cottonwood Eastland stakeholders, which will be held on October 28th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. We will put together an agenda and just really wanted to take an opportunity to meet with stakeholders and talk about the property. It's been a while since we've had been able to meet with nearby property owners. I believe there was some meetings may have occurred back when the property was being acquired by or created as part of the state park. But at any rate, we just wanted to take some time to meet with and talk and focus strictly on the Cottonwood Eastland We'll talk about the access to the park, the draft management plan, what the draft recommends, and as well as HB 52 and the additions to the park within HB 52. We haven't been able to send out notice yet about this. We're still working with Representative Vance's office to finalize some of the details. There was a request to have an in-person meeting, the availability for folks to meet in person. And so we're working on with the representative's office to try to nail down that detail. And as soon as we do that, then we can start to get the word out. But just wanted to bring to the board's attention, again, that's October 28th, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. It will be on a Microsoft Teams forum, but as I mentioned, we're trying to see what the options are for having an in-person component for those that may not have good internet service. So that's all I have to add. Thanks.
Thanks, Jack. Anybody on the board have questions for Jack? I don't see any little hands up. So Jack, just for my information, where does Parks stand on this issue with Elmer's Way?
Well, I think that we certainly recognize that there's an access issue for the park, and the property that's been identified in HB 52 as parcel A in HB 52 is something that will address a lot of the concerns that Meg raised tonight. So we're certainly cautious about any new development in the area, and are very sensitive to the neighbors' concerns. And from our standpoint, we want to be a good neighbor and to try to minimize the impacts to the neighborhood. So Meg's raised some very good valid concerns, and would like to try to see what we can do to try to address those.
Thanks, Jack. All right, moving on. Jason, is Jason with us this evening?
Yeah, hello, Robert.
Good evening, Jason.
You'll have received my operations report from what took place over the summer. I'm not going to read through it. Significant things that had occurred over the summer, I would say, would be our RTP program difficulties, going from a full crew down to a single crew member. And then we had about 2 crew members for maybe a week, and then back down to just a 2 crew member trying to complete our RTP work. So we didn't get nearly the amount of clearing that we thought we'd get done. And in that RTP grant was logging out trails. A big one would be up to the Emerald Lake. And we cleared blowdowns up on Fen Ridge, but there were more between the Blue Ice section and Emerald Lake that are still there, that are still make that trail unhikeable. We also did quite a bit of work on that flooding out towards China Fruit Lake to try to keep that public use cabin open and accessible. The flooding will continue, and we're just trying to make the public get through there as safe as possible. Other things of note, Carter Forney is off of his training, is approved to run boats. He's the Park Ranger 1. If you guys haven't met him yet, we could bring him into this meeting and introduce himself, and you guys can grill him, whatever works for you. But, he's going to be running the day-to-day operations of Kachemak Bay, front country stuff, and he's doing well. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jason. Any questions for Jason Oakley? Sue Christensen. You're muted, Sue.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, thanks. I just wonder what happened with why did we lose the crew members? How do we lose them? And that the work wasn't completed, like Eric's work and that kind of thing. I just wonder what happened there.
Crew dynamics is always a iffy thing. And then the work that's expected, you know, young people can say, oh yeah, I'd love to go hike every day and carry a chainsaw and cut brush out. But then when they start doing it and they realize there's bugs and rain and sleeping in a tent, they can often think, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. And then there's also just the crew dynamic aspects of things with conflicting personalities. That can be a driving factor. And, you know, once one crew member quits, the crew dynamic can shift. And then, you know, if you had your pal on the crew that was helping you get through and then they're gone, then you don't stick around. Yeah, I don't.
And can you re-advertise for those positions if you lose them? Like, I think I would have known some people that might have been interested had I known you'd lost crew.
Yeah, and we did re-advertise for them. Generally, we post locally, but then we also just post on the state job board. And we were able to rehire 2 of the positions. Again, it was just, you know, explain to them what they'd be doing, got them out there in the woods doing it, and then one of them was like, no, this isn't for me, quit. And then the crew leader stuck it out the entire season, and one of his rehire that we did stuck it out with him.
The other question I have for you is the Tutka Backdoor Trail, where you said the trail assessment and inspection from Taylor Bay to Tutka Bay. I'd kind of like to have a report on that. What'd you think?
We hiked it, and we're gonna, you know, work on a formal report outlining of all of the sections of the trail that are out of compliance. I think after seeing it and the degradation that is happening in the high alpine, that yeah, we are, I believe, on the right track of trying to inhibit, restrict, discourage the public from hiking in certain areas until either we state parks can get out there and fix it or somebody else does.
Okay, and I would like to just tell you that I've been on that trail a lot, and I have some opinions about it too, and I also have done quite a bit of trail work over my years, and so I'm interested in talking to you about it and would love to do it person to person. I'll wear a mask.
Yeah, sure.
Good.
Any other questions for Jason? Jason, I see several bridges are in need of replacement. Saddle Trail and where was it? Up Moose Valley? They're going to try and do nothing on that this year.
Yeah, and that's going to bring up some more problematic things for the park. With the RTP grant, the only thing we can apply for is safety related issues or things pertaining to safety with the park. I would definitely argue broken, cracked bridges are a safety problem. But listening in on some of the RTP meeting stuff and talking with Eric about it, they may be requiring environmental review type federal paperwork to go with a bridge replacement that's on an existing trail, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But that extra environmental review process is quite taxing as far as turning out an RTP grant. Eric's the one who writes the RTP grants for our trails. His time's limited. He's spending a lot of his time up in Seldown area doing some tree felling for forestry within state park lands right now. And so he'll have about a month to crank out an RTP report. An RTP grant. He plans on doing a grant. And within that safety component, we intend to focus on signage in the park and maybe maps for the park and maybe as far as bare boxes for the report, with those, you don't need environmental review processes. And those bridges, yeah, they need to be replaced. And we might be trying to do it through Trails Day efforts, volunteer efforts again, but I'm not sure if we'll be able to get a grant to have a crew do it next year.
Understood. And is the tram usable?
Currently, yes. And we are trying to figure out a good solution for that. We've reached out to some local contractors who've hemmed and hawed about it and said, nah, we're not touching it. The tram design itself is relatively simple, and we've tried to research different types of rigging equipment in order for us to do it locally. And nothing in Alaska has rigging equipment that size, and we'd be ordering parts and equipment from Seattle or the East Coast. It's a 3-inch cable, and that's a rarity. But right now we believe it's safe. The cart's just sagging. We're not sure what's going to happen when the other guide rail pull breaks. We're not sure how high that pull rope will raise, and if it does change the ergonomics of pulling it, where you have to stand to pull yourself across, and there's the risk of falling out of the cart because your center of gravity has changed from sitting or something like that. We may close it until we can get it fixed, and who knows when that other guide rail will break.
Okay, thanks for that. Glenn Seaman, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a quick question, Jason. When have you already planned what your priorities are for trail work next year? If not, when does that happen, and how can we provide input into that?
Our priority for trail work always remains the same. With the staff people we have and what we think we can manage with state parks is access to the Gruint Glacier Lake and the Gruint Trail system, so out to the tram, over to the saddle. And that's number one. Number two is access to all the public use cabins, and mainly that's focusing on the Chinapoot Lake Trail and out to the Moose Valley cabin. And then that's number two. And then our third priority we think we can continue to manage is Grace Ridge with volunteer support. And the bridges we're looking to replace or happen to be in those sections. And we can only try to do those things to RTP grant support. So RTP this year says only safety stuff. You know, we're not going to be able to write brushing and clearing and logging out trail grants. So to do those types of regular maintenance we would do on those priority trails, it's going to be volunteer based. And luckily we work very successfully with volunteer groups, and we've grown the friends have grown themselves, or however you want to say it, but they've done a lot, and they're going to continue hopefully to do a lot in this park, and hopefully that will continue to grow. Opening up the saddle, clearing Grace. They've done Moose Valley in the past. We've got the Boy Scouts out doing coalition loops. There's just been a pouring of volunteer effort to assist in our trail maintenance, they just do an outstanding job.
Thanks, Jason. Any more questions? I see no little hands. Thanks a lot, Jason. And you're going to be pulling the ramp on the 15th at the Ranger Station?
Yep, that's our intention. Go out there and give it a whirl. Sometimes we go out there with the intentions of pulling it and things happen. And we postpone, come back to mainland, and redraw it up on the chalkboard.
Okay, we'll be in touch. Thank you. So moving along, we have committee reports, but I just want to say that we're going to try and shorten these a little bit. You have written reports from everybody, so in the interest of moving things along, if you hold your comments as short as you can, and we'll move these meetings along a little bit. So first is the Friends report, and that's with Kathy Sarens.
Hi. Yep, I'm Kathy. I'm with the Friends at Kachemak Bay State Parks. I'll just be real brief. We didn't send a report yet. I'm working on a bigger newsletter that'll come out later. We've had a busy season starting in April, and it's still ongoing. We've volunteers, Friends volunteers have logged in over 2,000 volunteer hours, and we're still adding hours in as we're collecting. So it's going to be higher than that. And that's valued at about $57,000 as far as the going rate for volunteer hours at $28 an hour. We're keeping track as we hope to look into some grants this winter for more trail maintenance. And I guess mostly we cleared a lot of trails. South Grace is completely cleared now from Ocean to the tree line, south side of Grace. Sadie Knob is pretty much mostly clear. We did a lot of repairs and like to bear boxes. We cleaned up Kachemak, and maintain a lot of the water trail campsites, etc. And of course, there's been work on Eveline trails, big improvement in work on Eveline trails in Cottonwood, Eastland, and then Friends is supporting and helping promote the Saddle Trail access property acquisition, which Chris Little just talked about for the Conservation Fund. So we have that link for the fundraiser pinned to, that means it's at the top of our posts on our Facebook page, and our Facebook page is Friends of Kachemak Bay State Park. So if you go to that, you can either donate or share it to help get the word out. And then the big news is our annual meeting is Thursday, December 2nd on Zoom. Watch for an email, or we'll be posting it on Facebook, or if you don't see that, contact one of us. We'll send you the details, and there'll be prizes and presentations, and it'll be very exciting. And we encourage folks to go online and donate or renew your membership before the meeting, because then if you do, you get more chances to win prizes. Anyway, and then our website is friendsofkachemakbay.org. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I see no little hands up. Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks.
So next we have the water trail report, and I know Dave Brand is in Maine. So I know that we went up to Kachemak Island and got the registers up there and cleaned the trails off again and just checked things out there. And then we went to Lewis Lagoon there on a glacier spit and relocated that bear box that was there. It kind of got washed around a little bit last winter, so it's more secure now and it's cabled to the ground. So, and that's about it. I know that Dave has other things, but he didn't get to his report. So he did send in all the campsites that we had adopted, reports on those. So, all right, is Camille with us tonight?
Sure am.
Go ahead, Camille.
So Evelyn, as a lot of you know, had a very busy year, mostly during the summer. We logged 247 volunteer hours during the summer. 1,700 visitors signed the log, which means there probably were closer to 7,000 or more visitors, as fewer than 25% of the people do sign the log. I am trying to get a trail counter so we have a better idea of how many visitors Evelyn really has. Significant improvements have taken place. They're all detailed in that report. The most significant improvements that took place this summer were the trail improvements. In addition to a 21-foot wide snowcat access trail, all the trails were smoothed out, removing all the ruts, ridges, and roots. And with the exception of the snowcat trail, all these trails will be allowed to grow back into a width of about 6 feet wide, which is kind of an optimal width for 2 people to walk abreast. This work was necessary because the trail had basically gotten to the point where it really was unmaintainable. It was so narrow and rutted it could not be mowed, and that has now been taken care of. There are some wet spots that we have addressed and are still addressing. A boardwalk has been put down in one of the wettest areas. I'm looking at some geoblock pavers for some of the other wet areas. So far, what I've done is gone out and spread some of the mulch from the trail work over some of those wet areas so they're not as slippery right now. Winter projects include getting a new kiosk that will be built over the winter. It will get installed in the spring. We're trying to figure out a more efficient way to do the flower guides. Those flower guides are extremely popular, but they're all made by hand. They're very labor intensive. So that's one of our projects for the winter, is to come up with a more efficient way of doing those flower guides. Probably one of the biggest improvements will be planning and applying for grants to put in a new accessible trail from the parking lot to the viewing platform. Evelyn was the recipient of almost $6,000 from the 100 Men project, which basically is the seed money for this accessible trail. And I'm working with several people in the quote accessible community on this. There is a large grant being put together to go in after the first of the year, and I would like Evelyn to be part of that grant as a shovel-ready project. Phase one of this will just be going from the parking lot to the viewing platform. Ideally, have it expanded to go further around. So in addition to skiing, Evelyn has a very busy winter ahead. That's all I have to say, and I can answer any questions.
Any questions for Camille? I just want to recognize you, Camille, for all the work you've done out there, and I know that you personally have put funds into that, so I applaud you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Next is Cottonwood Eastland and Aaron Peterson.
Thanks, Robert. It's pretty disappointing the ILMA has been put off. We were expecting it would happen any time, and now it's been tied to House Bill 52, and that's going to be delayed at least till next year. So that's all real disappointing. Back to the park. The park is 2,600 acres sandwiched between Elmer's Way and the Bay. And I don't see it going away. There's some real excitement for hiking in that area. And Megan's right, there's a lot of people coming and going there. Right now, the trails are clear from Elmer's Way down to Glen Green's Road and then across to the mud hole. That's all been cleared, and you can fairly easily walk all the way to the bluff above where Eastland Creek dumps into the bay. So lots of excitement there. The neighbors are complaining about parking, but they removed where we used to park by the sign, and then they complain that we can't park. So it's kind of like, I don't know, we need to figure out something. I just don't see it not being, developed more and more as people get more and more excited about it. Yeah, last winter there was lots of snowshoeing and skiing, and I don't see that going away either as long as we get snow. Any questions?
I see no hands, Aaron. Thank you. Next is Habitat Committee. Nancy, do you have anything to say on that?
Yes, I just wanted to say that we were able to acquire the book called Wildland Recreation, and what this can do for the park is to become aware of ecological impacts of wildlife recreation and when we're building trails and things like that. So we're thinking of putting together an outline of some sort that can just, bring some of the high points. And so we are planning to, this can bring awareness to the impacts, and if possible, we can minimize our footprint on the project so that we can stay within the confines of the statute for protecting and preserving the park. And so I'm trying to get a digitized copy of that and see if I can get the rights to it so that we can, all share that. I'm not sure.
All righty, we might have lost you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Now you're breaking up a little bit. Try it again.
Is that better? Okay, and anyway, so we'll try to get a digitized copy of it, and just to become aware of, recreation is wonderful. There's no doubt about it, and we'll never be able to minimize everything, but at least we can become more aware of our actions and how it affects the habitat. So, okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Nancy. Any questions for Nancy? All right, let's move on to old business. And I put in HB 52. And I see that we have numerous people here from Department of Natural Resources. HB 52 was put in by Representative Vance, and it will carve out the Tutka Bay Lagoon property, and it will put 3 parcels back into the park and legislatively designate those parcels into the park at Cottonwood Eastland, which currently they are not legislatively designated into the park. They're DNR property. It's all rather confusing, but if anybody has any questions on that, there's folks here that might be able to answer some questions.
Yeah, I have a question, Robert. I'm wondering on the resale value, or for instance, that the Saddle Trail, 5 acres for $300,000. So that would mean, 125 acres would be $7,750,000. I was just wondering if there's been an evaluation done for value between the parkland that's so dear. I mean, it's the heart of the park, and then upland land that is already DNR land, so it's not like it's that different than than just if the park can convey that to the park anyway. So, has anyone done evaluation on this?
Yeah, Nancy, this is Jack. I know this came up during the advisory board meeting last month, but to my knowledge, the department has not done an evaluation or comparison on those parcels.
Okay, and has anyone done a highest and best use finding on it, on the difference with the land and the opportunities of a lagoon property as compared to what's already DNR land also?
Yeah,
because I think that's in the Constitution.
Not to my knowledge, Nancy, but those questions did come up at the advisory board meeting, and the department did hear those concerns.
And so will we get an answer for those?
I'll look into this, Nancy, and see if we can have more information on this at the next meeting.
Great, thank you.
So if it's, okay. Glenn, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm new to this advisory board, and I'm wondering, in the past, or maybe we can in the future, has there ever been an actual invitation to the hatchery folks to come together and explain their operation to us, what their plans are in the short or long term? It appears the board had some surprises with expansion, which required net pens in Tutka Bay and other places. There seems to be a lot of misunderstanding going on, and it seems like it'd be beneficial to have them meet with us and explain what they're doing to either answer questions, take the fear out of things, help us understand where they are and where they're going and what they plan to do. Has that ever been considered, or could that be done?
Sure, Glenn, that's a good, fair question. And we have had participation with representatives from CIAA at advisory board meetings before. We have had meetings separately from the board. We have also, Cook Inlet also provided a tour of the hatchery and lagoon for advisory board members a number of years ago, which was really, really helpful. State Parks also is participates with the regional planning team for the hatchery, and this is fairly new within the last couple of years. We were invited to join this, so I think it's fair to say that we're trying to communicate with Cook Inlet and DNR representatives, and I think we have a really good working relationship with their staff, and so.
Well, what I'd like,
in your case, Glenn, you're new to the advisory board, and that was it was a number of years ago that we had had the tour. So that might be helpful for some of the new members, and we can sure follow up with Cook Inlet staff and see if that's a possibility, or if the board would like to, or like us to look into it.
I wonder if it'd be good to have short reports from them, since it's such an issue of importance to this board, that they could share with the advisory committee, so we'd have a chance to ask questions if we have them. So it seems like a lot of is going, Parks is doing things directly with them in this regional planning, but maybe have them come and visit with some regularity with us. That's my recommendation.
Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. We can sure, I can sure follow up with Cook Inlet staff, and many times they will participate and join. I can recall a number of many of our in-person meetings where there were representatives from Cook Inlet attending advisory board meetings. So in the past, and I don't know if we have anyone on here tonight, but we Beaver is on our advisory board and is also part of Cook Inlet Aquaculture as well. So we can always look at opportunities for trying to improve communication, and I'll pass this on and talk with Cook Inlet Aquaculture about if there's some opportunities for trying to improve communication.
Thank you. That's all I ask.
Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, Jack, maybe we can invite Dean to a meeting here this winter sometime.
Yeah, and I'll just add that we did have a meeting with Dean Day, their executive director, over the summer. Robert and I and Nancy met with Dean just informally to talk about some questions with regards to HB 52 and hatchery operations. So yeah, but thanks.
Sue Christensen.
Thanks, Robert. A couple of things. One is the reason I opposed the minutes, approving the minutes, is I think it really is important for us to be able to, without reviewing the whole 2-hour meeting, look back and see what we have, what resolutions we've made or what discussions we've had. And I volunteer to take the minutes, and I think Carol will help me, so that we have a succinct thing that we can look at and see what we did. And I think it's very disempowering without minutes to see what we've accomplished. And in that light, I would like to move, make a resolution that we oppose.
We'll talk about Sue. We're going to talk about that under new business.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Yep. Anything else on HB 52?
Hey, Robert, Louis has his hand up. I did put it down for him and I think he put it back up, but you might want to ask him.
Louis? Louis, you got anything? Okay.
Oh, he's shaking his head no. I'll put his hand back down.
All right. Thank you. Sometimes that hand gets stuck. So just stay tuned to that. I know Juneau is just crazier than heck down there, and we all know what they're dealing with. So HB 52 is not going to come. Let's see. It's going to go into House Resources when they come back into session in January. So pay attention. So next, let's move on to new business if nobody has anything else on that subject. So Loosetter property and Nuka Island properties. Jack, did you have anything you wanted to add about the Nuka Island properties?
Yeah, I did. And just like to, just wanted to bring this to the advisory board's attention that we've had some discussions with the Conservation Fund about acquiring 2 properties on Nuka Island. Herring Pete's Cove and Mike's Bay are owned by the University of Alaska, and we've had some discussions about with the Conservation Fund about the properties. They are one property is 22 acres and the others right around 24 acres, and they are in holdings within Kachemak Bay State Park on Nuka Island. So just wanted to bring this to the attention of the advisory board that you know, these are our 2 parcels that we're working with the Conservation Fund on, and you know, we think that you know, these in holdings would be best acquired by the state, and are really good opportunities for us to work on that. So that's all I have, but I appreciate Chris being here with us tonight. I don't have anything else to add on the Loosetter property or the Saddle Trailhead property, other than just I can't stress how much it would be, how helpful that would be for us and our management to acquire it and put it in public hands. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Jack.
And could I make one comment there, please? This is Beaver.
Sure, go ahead, Beaver.
Yeah, I want to say that yeah, the Herring Peak property on Nuka Island, that's just incredibly historical. It's just an amazing place. I spent plenty of time there over the years, just back way back 40 years ago and stuff. And anyway, it's just something that would really be good to preserve it as a, you know, as a historical site. I'm all in favor of seeing that one go through.
Thanks for that.
I can speak to that a little bit. This is Chris Little. It is actually already identified as a historic site, and so it'll be preserved as such going forward. So thanks for that, Beaver.
So is it already on the register as a National Historic Site?
I believe so. Some type of designation, correct.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Kristen Dixon.
Oh, yeah. Hi, guys. Jack, I just wanted to ask you, Jack and Chris, have you ever has the property that comes available on the Petroff Lake University disposal? I mean, I know that's a big chunk of land, but it is all in the park, right? And so occasionally landholders will sell those pieces off. Has there ever been any discussion on the Petroff subdivision or whatever, maybe purchasing those to reacquire into the park? Thank you.
Yeah, Kirsten, we have had some discussion about that. There has been some discussion about that, but we haven't really focused on that area here recently.
This is
okay,
Chris, and
yeah, okay.
nor have I, but I'm happy to hear more about it.
Yeah, there's parcels, that go up for sale quite regularly, and they're not. I mean, I know I don't know why the university did that disposal personally, but I just know that it would, be sort of interesting to explore the Petrov parcels that do come available.
Thanks. I'll take a look.
Yeah, Chris, maybe we can talk offline here tomorrow or later this week about this.
Sounds good.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Robert, am I online here, Robert?
Yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we write a letter of support for the Lazatter and Nuka Island properties.
That's going to come in on item C.
Ah, I thought you said that
Or
was
D.
bylaws.
D, item D. Stand by.
Okay.
I would like
Jason,
to.
Okay, Chris, go ahead.
One last point about the Lazatter property I forgot to mention is kind of the future of what this holds for the park. And really the desire from the park is to move the saddle trail to this property, the start of the saddle trail to this property. I think that's a key point. The second piece is there are long-term desires to potentially put in other infrastructure on this property to help manage the park more effectively, be it a dock or the ranger station or a public use cabin. I know those are some of the long-term goals and options being considered, but I'd just like the board to know that. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Ranger Oakley, do you have something to add?
I just wanted to mention that Petrov subdivision is noted in our 95 management plan as an area of interest pertaining to the private subdivision there and its effect on the park or its resources in the surrounding areas.
Thanks, Jason. Any other questions for Jack, Chris, or Jason? Let's move on to item B then, letter of support. Jack, would you like to speak to this one?
Sure. We added this to the KBSP Advisory Board's agenda this evening. Typically, the Kachemak Board doesn't focus on the Anchor River, but we thought this was an important enough project, and we don't really have an advisory board or any community groups that in the Anchor that local government that would really where we could request a letter of support. But we wanted to bring this to the attention of the board since it is on the southern Kenai and it is part of our overall community, even though it isn't within the responsibility of this advisory board. But the division will be applying for land and water conservation funds to replace 6 latrines within the Anchor River State Rec area. And there are a number of latrines that are that are very old and in poor condition, and sanitation is really an important to address, and we could use a letter of support for the advisory board on this. Reese Miranda, the Chief of Design and Construction, State Parks Design and Construction, is with us here this evening, and if we have any questions, we'd be happy to address those at this time.
Thanks, Jack. Any questions? I guess I have one. Maybe Reese, do you know what stage land and water conservation funding is at with the state right now?
Hi, good evening. Yes, we, if you recall, I believe the last time I attended the the CAB meeting, it was to update the board on the status of Land Water Conservation Fund. At the time, the budget was in the making, and we were hoping to secure receipt authority in our budget. We were successful in doing that in our FY22 budget, and so we did receive receipt authority. So, and that's what prompted us to advance some of these projects already. I should add that because we did have about 2 years, I believe, where we didn't receive the receipt authority, we have some funds that are at risk of lapsing in July, and so we wanted to pull together a list of projects to that could be approved quickly and easily, so that we could obligate and secure those funds and prevent them from lapsing. And so this project that Jack mentioned is one of those projects. It is to replace 6 latrines in the Anchor River SRA. Fairly simple projects. We rarely get pushback on health and sanitation projects, and so this was strategically selected to help us secure some of those fundings from lapsing in July. I do want to clarify something, and this is probably my fault in communicating with Jack and Pam, but the letter of support, it's certainly welcome, but my primary objective tonight really was to share the project and allow for comments and questions as part of our public notice process. As most of you know, with these federal funds, that's one of the items that's required, is that we present these projects and allow for community comment. So that's really the primary objective. And like I said, though, letter of support would certainly be welcome and helpful, but I just wanted to clarify what the primary objective was. So with that, I do have a schematic of the project. If I'm able to share my screen, I can pull that up and give people a better idea of what it is we're doing or what we're looking at. And then I'd be happy to accept comments and questions. And I will also leave my contact information on the chat portion of the screen here. That way people can reach out to me after the meeting if questions and comments do come up then. So with that, I'll try to pull up my screen, and I apologize if I gum up the system here. Are people seeing this this drawing?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is just an overview of the Anchor River SRA, and we're looking to address, like I said, 6 latrines in 4 park units. So the first one would be at Silver King. There's 1 latrine there. There's another latrine in the Steelhead Campground, 2 at Slide Hole, and another 2 at Halibut. And these latrines were built during the mid 1990s. These generally have a design life of 30 years, so we're approaching that time frame, and our objective is to get those replaced with our standard concrete vaulted toilets, which meets our current standards and tend to last a little bit longer and require reduced maintenance in the long run. And these last 6 ones, I believe, are the last ones in the SRA. We have replaced a handful already, and these are the last ones. So, like I said, fairly simplistic. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to field those. And again, I will leave my contact information in the chat section.
Thank you, Reese. Any questions? Anybody on the phone have a question? So Reese, a letter of support would be good?
Yes, it would be helpful.
Any board member like to make the motion for a letter of support?
Yeah, this is Nancy. I'll make a motion to write a letter of support to get the funding for these latrines.
Thank you, Nancy.
This is Glenn. I'll second that.
Thank you, Glenn. Are there any objections to a letter? Very well. I'll get with Jack and Reese and just come up with the wording for a letter of support from the board. So sounds like it was unanimous.
Well,
thank you,
thank
Reese.
you so much. Thank you again for having me. Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Reese, and thanks to the board for the letter of support.
All right, so let's go on to a couple new subjects under new business, and C was the bylaws and the new letter. I hope everybody got the new bylaws and the way that we are going to work. So I sent those to board members here about a week ago. So we will have a discussion on that next meeting, but if somebody has some powerful feelings about what they've read, let's have a short discussion on this. Anybody have anything? Glenn?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what are the real substantive differences? I can see members down to 9 people, but what are the real substantive differences in this over the way it is now, in terms of like designating members or other parts to it?
I don't think there's going to be a whole lot. The one thing that I noticed will be 2 terms, consecutive terms, and then you have to take a 2-year hiatus before you can contemplate being on the board again.
Yeah, and I can just add a little to this. The director, one of his goals is to try to have some consistency with the advisory boards across the state, and boards range from 9 members to 15, and that was really, and the bylaws really kind of vary from board to board. So it really was an attempt to try to be a little more, have a little more consistency with the bylaws with our advisory boards, and then the other, in addition to the bylaws, the minutes and staff support was also an issue. And that would, from my perspective, that was probably a bigger issue. The Division of Parks has lost positions over the years, and and so we have fewer people that are responsible for a workload that has increased over time. I'll give you a couple of examples, and in the mid 1980s, there were 12 rangers that worked between Kachemak Bay State Park and Captain Cook State Park, and today we have a total of 8 rangers to manage this area, as well as Resurrection Bay and Prince William Sound and the northern Gulf Coast. So our staff has not kept pace with the workload. Our workload's increased and staff numbers have decreased. So the minutes, providing a more efficient use of our time and ability to capture what was said at the minutes or at the meetings and have that available. We view this as being a real positive for us. One other example with our staff workload is in our permitting shop here on the Kenai. Pam's the Lone Ranger, but she's responsible and has helped with advisory board support over the years. But her workload has certainly increased over time, and she's lost her assistants. She used to have a 9-month position that helped her at the River Center in Soldotna, and that position's gone. So, you know, our staff is kind of maxed out, and we're looking at ways to be more efficient with what we do. Having a brief 1-page minute that captures the big items the main items that were accomplished during the advisory board meeting. You know, we view that as being adequate. If folks would like more, you know, like to follow the meetings more, having a video format that they can link to is a great option. And just having that video link is, you know, we've seen examples here in the last few weeks that people have been unable to make the meeting, but have been able to join in later. So those are just some thoughts there from our end here on the changes that were made.
Sue Christensen. You're mute.
Thanks,
There you go.
Robert, and thanks, Jack. I take it this is a little bit, I understand completely about the lack of staff, and I would appreciate if we had the opportunity to get somebody from our group to take minutes. And I will, and I volunteer, but I don't know, is this just kind of dictates down from the Dunleavy administration, the director, that these changes are happening no matter what? So we're not going to be able to have any more detail, like if we pass resolutions, what those are, or what actions we would like to have done. You know, it just really disempowers. I know we're an advisory board, but it doesn't really motivate me to, you know, are we just like I don't know, blanket little team of people that don't really get listened to? There, I've said it.
Well, Sue, I can assure you that the advisory boards are really important and provide us with input on park management. And as I mentioned, you know, our region, we have 3 advisory boards, and you know, I really value and appreciate the recommendations and input. This is our primary method for incorporating public involvement with park management. You know, getting together once a week once a month between September and May. You know, we have a regular routine where we can sit down and talk about issues that are important to stakeholders. You know, you saw here this evening, it's also a chance for folks that aren't serving on this advisory board it's an opportunity to bring concerns to park managers. So to me, they are very important, and you know, it just gets down to the amount of time the minutes were taking for staff to put together. And you know, I don't think there would be an issue if someone else were to do the minutes. But from our staff's perspective, we just don't have the bandwidth anymore to put the time into that when there's other methods of technology that we can use to do so. So I don't think that would be an issue if the board would like to do that. If somebody were to volunteer to do it, it's just we're maxed out. We gotta, you know, and this was a good opportunity for us to save us some work.
And can I just add, Sue, before you speak there, I know you want to say something. You know, if you look at the minutes that we sent out, the 1-pager, it's not, those will list, like it's going to list, the next minutes are going to list that Nancy made a motion to, write a letter for the Anchor River, and any other specific item like that, we will definitely summarize in the minute or these briefed minutes. But, so we're not going to completely preclude that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff we'll make sure gets put out there in writing. But, like Jack said, I mean, with doing 2 advisory board meetings and stuff and doing minutes and agendas and announcements and stuff was 3 to 4 days a month for me. And that's just a lot of time for me to put into something like that. And, I think it's great if you want to step up and do the minutes. The only thing is the months that you may not be there for a meeting, if you don't have a backup, it's not going to happen. So it's just something to think about.
Thanks, Pam. So you do capture any decision that we make, resolution, letter of support in your condensed minutes?
Yeah, if you look at the one I sent out for this month, it has the election of the officers and who made the motions and who was, and then there was also the, both for the chair and the, the co-chair. So yes, we will make sure when those motions are, talked about and voted on, we will put those in the small version of the minutes.
Okay. Anything else, Sue?
No.
Okay. Maybe I'd ask Jack, what I see that there is a administrator and administrative assistant in the bylaws now. And I'm just wondering what you envision their role will be.
Yeah, I think their role will be to help with putting the agendas together and providing those to staff as well. So, I mean, it doesn't take staff that much time to put the 1-page minute or the 1-page summary together. I think we can still commit to doing that at this point. That's because that just has the action items and it's pretty straightforward,
Yeah.
But anything more detailed, I would, if the board wants to have detailed minutes, then that's, I think, something that would fall under the administrative officers.
Okay. Yeah, so folks, if you haven't read the bylaws and the other publication that came at the same time, have a look at that and we can discuss that further next meeting. And
yeah, we just wanted to get these out to folks and let people have a chance to read them and think about them here. And then, like Robert said, it'll be on the agenda next month.
Well, this is Sarah.
Robert?
I've got something.
Sarah, go ahead.
When I was on the well spill response team, and I took minutes for a couple of years, and I did it with two provisos. One is I have time to write them out during the meeting, and if something got ahead of me, I could stop the meeting for a few seconds and catch up. And the other was that we then voted on the minutes at the meeting at which they were recording, and that made it so we could have the same people who had made the minutes, made the actions, were there to make any corrections, and it worked out quite well for us. And it wouldn't have to be the same person all the time.
Okay. Well, I think when we make a motion for a resolution or a letter, we're going to capture those names. And one thing about it, having it recorded, I've already looked at our last meeting too, and it's very easy to go to that site And you can watch as much of that meeting as you want, or just take that little pointer and cruise right through it to a point that you want to hit on. So
And
technology.
Robert, I'll just add one more quick thing so people don't worry about it in the future. Even if we do go back to in-person meetings, which we've kind of pseudo did with the Charisma meeting in Kenai, I am able to record those meetings on my recorder, and those are also being posted online too. So whether it's Teams or it's just a normal little recorder, we're able to put both of those out there for people to listen to. So it's not just because we're using Teams. If we ever go back to in-person meetings, we'll be able to record them and put that recording out there also.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Hopefully we get to see the whites of each other's eyes sometime. Nancy, did you have
Robert,
something to add?
Yeah, I was just, when Jack was talking about the director wanting consistency between the advisory committees across the state, I guess. I'm a little concerned about the two, that people can only stay on for 2 rounds of 3 years each. And the reason I'm a little concerned about that is the loss of a perspective of, long-term perspective. And, kind of the shifted baseline that happens when you just are continually getting new people on board without having some long-term people on there. For instance, Glenn Green, for many years, he was able to bring up, some historical information that we didn't know about Mako. I mean, he'd been on there for years, and thank God he was there to help us learn what had happened, 15 years ago. And I saw the same thing. I was on the Fish and Game Advisory Committee for 17 years, and same thing there, where say, well, we dealt with that 10 years ago, and so this is what we did, and it's just so I'm a little concerned about that, and I don't know if there's some way to help that out. So that's just my thought on the two being able to stay on for only 2 sessions.
Thanks, Nancy. Like I say, we can bring this discussion to the next meeting also, but all right. Anything else from the board? I see no hands.
Something.
Who's that? Sarah?
This is Sarah. I wonder if other people have been noticing, as I have, a change in the avian fauna around here in the last few months. I'm seeing birds I've never seen before, and I'm not seeing some of the birds, or as many, as what I'm used to seeing. And I've got some little LBBs flitting around my yard, and they're so tiny, and they flit, and I cannot get a good handle on what they are. I finally saw that one of them has a completely white breast.
Sarah, maybe we'll save that for comments of the board at the end. How's that?
That sounds just fine. I just didn't want to get...
Thank you. So if we're done with the bylaws for tonight, let's move on to the resolution. And Nancy, you can make that motion now. And let's make two resolutions, one for Nuka Island and one for the Lucenter, or the Saddle Trail property.
Okay, are we asking for a resolution or a letter? What are we want a resolution stating that we support this and why, then the whereas thing, or what?
What's the best, Jack? Do you want a resolution or just a letter of support?
That's up to the board's prerogative. If you feel that these are worthy projects, it would certainly be helpful to have resolutions.
Okay, that sounds. I move that we make a resolution to support the Lozada Conservation Fund purchase and being conveyed to the park.
Is there a second?
Second, Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn. Is there anybody opposed to this resolution? Hearing none, I will take that on to work with Jack just to get the proper wording on that and make up a resolution and get that one underway.
Okay, and I also
If that's-
I make a move that we also have a resolution for the Nuka Island properties for Herring Pete's and can't remember the name of the other one.
All right, Nancy, thanks for that. Is there a second? Are we in support of this? Somebody want to?
I second.
Thank you, Sue. Any objections? All right, thank you. We'll make up 2 resolutions. And if it's all right with the board, I will do that and get that off.
Anything I can do
If
to
that's
help,
okay
I
with
will.
everybody, unless you folks want to see it. It's just going to be that a resolution. The Saddle Trail property has been an issue for I don't know how many years, but I'll look into that a little bit. Just saying State Parks has been working at that to get that for years and years, and it's a very important spot for safety in more ways than one. So, and that we support it unanimously. And I'll try and get some wording on the Nuka property as far as being historical and Pete's property and such. So if that's okay with everybody. All right. Thank you. So the last thing I have under new business is a little discussion on Cottonwood Eastland under item E. I have a little uncomfortable feeling about what's going on down on Raton and Elmer's Way. And I would just like to ask Jack if there's anything that we can do, or how can we handle this? I know that if it snows out there, it's going to get even worse.
Yeah, I think, I guess what I would suggest is, let's listen and wait and see what we hear at the meeting on the 28th. I think this is a good opportunity for us to meet with all stakeholders, including the neighbors, and it's a good opportunity to have the discussion. And so there may be some good thoughts that come out, or ideas that come out of the meeting too, and that'll be here in a couple of weeks. So I guess that'd be my initial suggestion. But I see Jason has raised his hand, so he may have something else to add on this with this.
Okay, thanks, Jack. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Robert and Jack. This ILMA issue, we've never needed an ILMA to develop trails over there in that general state parcel, or probably even to put in a parking pad. I believe what the fear is that if we went and developed trails or put in a parking pad, it could be taken away from us. So we don't want to do that until we have some reassurance that the efforts we do there will be there in perpetuity. With these issues that we've been having down with the parking, and we've known this is a problem since more people started going down there, and Camille is one who has spearheaded it with land mining and water. Just before Raton, there's a gravel pad on that ILMA that was put there during the fire days, and there's a blazed dozer trail that goes from that parking pad down in the woods. Land Mining and Water has granted permission to, I'm not sure if it's Camille or if it's the Friends or who, but to do clearing on that gravel pad where people now can park away from and off of and not needing to access Elmer's Way or Raton. The piece that is lacking would still be a trail system that connects the two. It's cleared land. Brushing would be relatively easy, and we've already talked with Camille. And it's, general state land, so Parks doesn't really need to give any permission to do anything there. And general state lands are much more liberal with what they allow to be done on their lands than state park lands. We will continue to work with those interested in developing that area to tie it in correctly with state park trails and to put the requests in place of these standards need to be met. So, if they start building trails and it's not the park standards, we don't want to get the LMA and then say, okay, now we have to go back and fix what you did. And so we'll definitely be there in helping guiding them to do that. But that's currently the route we're going.
Thanks, Jason. Could you give us a little better idea of where that gravel pad is?
This is Camille. Can I make a comment?
Go ahead, Camille.
So that parking pad is at mile 17.4. It actually is not DNR land. I thought it was DNR land. Turns out it's Kenai Peninsula Borough land. And Kenai Peninsula Borough has given a nod go ahead to clear that parking area. It's a very large parking area. Could easily be connected to the DNR land to put a trail down to the park boundary. Aaron and I have already GPSed a trail from the park boundary to the current trail in the park that kind of runs parallel with Elmer's Way, but far enough south that you cannot see the neighborhood. And so it would be a very easy way to move all the cars and the people out of that neighborhood. I hadn't intended on talking about this until I had a little more I wanted to talk to some other people first, but yeah, it looks like Jason has brought up that parking pad. The ILMA land is kind of to the left of where that arrow is right there, and that's where the parking pad is. It's a large pad that was put in for fire response equipment, I think in 2009.
Yeah, Camille, thanks for sharing that information. We were contacted by the borough about this about this proposal, and the borough did reach out to us, and like Camille says, it's still kind of early, so we hadn't been bringing this forward for discussion until we had a chance to talk a little bit more with the borough on it. So, but it is a suggestion that's and a request that's out there.
That's great. Thank you. Might solve a few problems until we get the ILMA for that other area. So,
and hopefully we can get some clarifications by the time of this meeting at the end of October.
Great. All right. With that pretty much
Robert,
go ahead, Aaron.
So when I'm down there on Elmer's Way, one of the things I hear from the neighbors is we're paying for this road to clear the snow and put on the gravel. So maybe we could find out what it actually costs, and maybe we could help with that. Just a thought.
Yeah, Robert, this is Nancy. I hear what Aaron's saying there, but I'm really concerned for the neighbors there and what Meg was saying, and I don't think that they want help with snow, things like that. If I read that right, but maybe someone else heard differently than me. And if we have an alternative, I think it's better that we take the alternative and try to keep the peace as much as possible. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Nancy. And I have to tell you, being a ex-horse owner and everything else with loose dogs, and loose dogs is a real problem in the city right now. And it's got a burr under my saddle pad a little bit, and I can understand that. So I'm real interested in this other parking spot, and that would alleviate all these problems. So thank you for that, though, Aaron. It's always worth the conversation. So with that, we can move on to public comments. If anybody from the public have a comment, you have 3 minutes. Hi, Meg. Go ahead. Did we lose you?
Mute.
Yeah, unmute. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron, for that. I appreciate that. I wanted to thank Aaron for his observations, and Jason for his observations, because the comment that Aaron made about taking away the parking was, a result of needing to ditch in order to maintain the road. So definitely parking at the top of East End Road, I think is very valuable. We recognize, we in the neighborhood recognize how much the public is interested in coming into the park. We moved here 12 years ago just because of that, because it's so beautiful. And I'm sure that there's a way that we can all work together to make that happen. Our concern is that when people come into our neighborhood and show us an incredible level of disrespect and entitlement, that they should be able to be here and just do whatever they want because of the proximity of the park. It doesn't sit real well. In this time, we're all having to work together, just like Jack is having to defer some of the work on the minutes because of his reduction in staff. And I think that we're very grateful in the neighborhood to be able to live here. And we want other people to be able to enjoy it as well, but not as our expense. And sadly, there are laws, in the state of Alaska that allow us to defend our livestock, and we will have to do that. We will have to utilize our opportunities to defend ourselves if we need to, but I don't think we will, because of this great observation that Jason made. So I look forward to a really great future working together so that we can all get what we want out of this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Anybody else from the public like to speak? Kristen Roman.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you to Camilla for all the work on the Abilene trails. I've walked it a few times over the past couple of weeks, and I've got kind of a bad back and a really old little dog, and it's so easy to traverse. It's really nice for us to walk on. So just thanks for all the hard work you guys have put in. It's a really nice trail. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that. Anybody else? All right, let's move on to comments of the board. And I'll start with Sarah.
Yeah, I've been noticing some strange birds around here. Little tiny flitters, little LBBs that are really hard to identify. And I'm not seeing the loons as much as I'm used to. And I saw a couple of strange seagulls in a flock of glaucous-winged gulls the other day. Immatures, rather large, and quite a bit darker than the others. And I just wonder if other people are seeing the same things, and if they are, maybe we would like to keep notes on it, because we do like to tell people what they can maybe see when they go to the park.
Thank you. We'll see what everybody else has to say. Is that it, Sarah?
That's it.
Thank you. Kirsten Dixon.
Yeah, hi. I'm really excited about the potential of us collectively looking at retaining land into the park and looking at opportunities to expand preservation and protection of wild places. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue Christensen.
I have a barking dog, so I think I'm gonna just say I've said what I've said, so thanks.
Thanks, Sue. Bark, bark. Nancy Hillstrand.
I just want to thank everyone from DNR and for helping make this park such a, just protecting the park and preserving the park. I think it's so worthy, and we have something here that is so rare anymore that I hope we don't ever lose track of the beauty that we have here in this park. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Nancy. I don't think Curtis or Jeffrey Lee made it. Oh, Glenn Seaman.
I'd just like to thank all the people on the board. It was a good meeting, and DNR, thanks for your work in making these good things happen. And I appreciate being part of the board, and that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. Beaver Nelson.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Camille's presentation there about the situation out at Eastland and the parking and the importance of getting a trail system that is not part of the actual neighborhood, where the people can be apart from that and yet still partake of it. And that's where I think that HB 52 would, and the proposed land swap might really help alleviate that situation. Thank you.
Thanks, Beaver. Aaron Peterson.
Thanks, Robert. I have two quick things. I'd like to make a motion. We send a sympathy card to the family of Clem Tillen, who died today.
I was going to bring that up at the end, but being that you brought it up, was that a motion?
It was a motion.
Is everybody in favor of that?
Yes.
Could you say what it again? I couldn't hear it. Could you repeat
So
it?
Clem Tillian passed away this morning. So it was a letter to the family, a sympathy letter.
Ah, definitely.
I think Clem played a pretty big role in designating the park. So if we can kind of figure that out, that'd be something we could put in there.
Yeah.
It definitely was a major factor in getting the park. Yep.
Does anybody have the interest in researching a little bit to bring that into that letter?
This is Glenn. I'll do that.
Thanks, Glenn. I'll touch base with you and we'll make that happen.
Okay.
So my second thing, seems like we waste a lot of time clearing trails in the park. So I know at Swift Creek, we spent 8 hours there weed whacking a flat area. And I think Camille kind of made this happen at Evelyn. We have flat areas. Let's not be weed whacking. Let's bring in, if we need legislation or whatever we need, so we can use machines, walk behind or pull behind or whatever to clear these flat areas. And that would give us time to weed whack those areas we can't possibly get to. And I'll give you an example if you want one. I'm Firewise around my house. I have an acre of grass. If I were to weed whack it, I would never get done before it needs weed whacking again. But if I get on my riding tractor, it's done in 2 hours and I could keep going. And I don't know what that ratio is. It's, I don't know, 30 to 1 or 40 to 1 or whatever it is. It's significant. I think we should utilize that like Neil has done at Evelyn to get trails, you know, cleared, and then we can have more time to clear those trails where we actually have to weed whack by hand. Just a thought.
Thank you for that, Aaron. I know that I like to sit on my tractor and brush hog that grass much more than get out there and use a weed whacker. So,
yeah.
Mark Romano, are you still with us?
I am, Robert. Yeah, thank you. No further comments except to just thank you and the other board members for a very good and productive meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Louis Dupree. Got anything to say, Louis? Maybe you've left us. Yeah. How about Yarrow?
I'm still here. I have no further comment.
Okay, thank you. And I would just add that another person left us this weekend also. Steve Wally passed away. So, tough week for some of the folks that have been around here a long time. So, yeah, Glenn, I'll get with you on that for Clem. So, Jack, did you have anything to add?
No, nothing else from my end. Just like to thank the board and our guests here for joining us. Real good discussion here tonight. Thanks much to Meg for taking time out of your schedule and you know, helping us on these issues. And I think we have a good opportunity to work together on this. You know, from my perspective, I want to be a good neighbor here, and I hear concerns that our neighbors have, and we'll work on these. So you have my commitment on that. So thanks much for your time and the action items that you did here this evening. It's very important work that you volunteered to do. Thanks.
Thanks, Jack. Jason, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. And that pretty much takes our agenda up. So next meeting will be November 10th, 5:30, and it will more than likely be on Zoom. So with that, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
Thanks, Aaron. Let's all go have dinner.
I second the motion.
Okay. Still, let's all go have dinner, unless somebody's opposed.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Well, stay safe out there. Thanks, Pam.
See you, Robert. I'll call you tomorrow or the next day. We need to talk about I just need to talk to you.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.